Hello and welcome to Centurion's Corner, and today we're going to be doing the upgrade for Commander Cody Phase 2. He's a fantastic figure, however he is missing those weathering points and some extra kind of little details that kind of really let him down a little bit. So we're going to be adding them, all those little details and the weathering today, and bringing him up to that figure that he should be. So don't worry, you don't need to be a pro here. I'm going to go through a little bit of a step-by-step guide, and at the end of the video as well we'll kind of do a bit of a review with the figure up close as well. But yeah, you don't need a lot of paints here, you don't need a lot of skill. I would just say maybe like a small detailed brush, that'll get you through it, and just a few extra paints here. So I'm using the grey, and I'm simply going to be doing the lines on the top of the bicep. I used the thickness as a width for what's on his forearm. Once I was happy with it, I actually went over the colouring of the ones on his forearm just so I didn't have to bother matching up. I just simply replaced and made it look the same. With the grey as well, he's got a little comp piece on his ear on his right hand side, and it's just a tiny little dot that needs to be added, and that is it for the grey. So here I'm using yellow green XF4. It's a fantastic looking colour. It's not as bright as flat yellow, and you just got to do those little discs on the end of his thermal detonator, and again that is all you need with that. Next up, we're using Gunmetal X10, fantastic colour. We do use this a lot on the channel. We're just doing his aerial part on the side, and also he's got a little line in between the on the orange part. So just fill that in, and the last part with the gunmetal, we're just going to colour in that little eye part on the top of his helmet. Next up, we're going to be using black. I was using a semi-gloss here, but I would recommend flat black. And we're just going to fill in that little vent part on the back and his black brow around. You can actually look at the details and you will see that sort of popping right out. And then almost to the finish, we're using buff. So I just repainted the parts on the top of his head. I just feel like they should be this kind of earthy colour rather than grey. And also he has another little thin brow around the top of his visor. So if you look, you'll see a sculpted thin line, and that should be that buff colour as well. So now I don't really have an orange colour that matches, so I'm using red flat and yellow flat, and just putting a few little bits together and keep mixing them and putting a little bit more in until you get that desired orange. Once you have, all you got to do is the thermal detonator's got a few little buttons on the back, and then simply it's just two extra little lines on top of the helmet as well, where the little eye part is. We added the gunmetal. So I'm not a face painter at all, but I'm using flesh colour and a bit of flat red, which brings up a bit of a pink, and I'm just adding in that scar as well to his face. I'm just copying some images off Google and just adding that in. So next up, grab your toothpick, and this way wait for the paint to dry. If you made any mistakes, never rub it down straight away, just always let it dry, and then you can actually scratch it off with a toothpick. Nice and simple, and get those lines back to the crisp how you want it to be. So before we go off and finish the figure, we're just going to be weathering up. My simple technique now, I don't really like oversaturating the figure in sort of weathering too much. A lot of people do, that's their way of doing it. The way I like doing it is just dry brushing. So I'll put a little bit of water and black paint, and I'll try and get that brush as dry as possible, and then I just simply go over the edges, giving it a bit of a smear and a few extra lines. For the darker bits, I normally get a thinner black brush or paint, and just adding those extra lines there, a bit similar how Hasbro have done it on the torso already, and just adding those extra little details kind of blends the figure all together so it looks continuous throughout. And for the last part, I just use a sponge, dab of the access, and then we simply go over the orange parts to add on the white chipping so it matches his shoulder bells. We're back in the studio, and we can do a proper overlook of this figure. Unfortunately, I haven't been out of practice, I must admit, doing the voiceover and doing the recordings as well. I just don't do it that way. I normally do like a short or a TikTok kind of thing, but I thought as this guy, he kind of needs that extra love and give you those little pointers, which I haven't done for a while in painting a figure. So I thought, do you know what, we'll do one of these and do it a little bit longer as well, because I've got some extra future projects here that I might need deciding on as well, and I might need your help at the end of the video. And my good friend Philip over in Germany, he's been a fan of the channel for a very long time, and I am happy to call him a friend. He actually pre-ordered me a Cody as well for my birthday for next month or this month, depending when you're watching it, which is April. And so we've got an extra Cody here, which is giving me really good ideas for the future. But he's going to be our stand-in Cody in this video, because now we can actually go through and show the differences, what I've done on camera. So first of all, we have got the grey that we use. So this is what I call the Imperial Grey on my channel. I call it because it's that grey kind of brow that the Stormtroopers have, the Clone Troopers have around the back of the helmet. It's all that kind of, it's a really good sort of matching colour. And if you was ever going to paint the wolf kind of battalion as well, this is a really good one for those. So this is Ocean Grey 2 XF82, and for that part there is what I used on his arm, and just bringing it into the side-by-side comparison here for this guy, you can see I've added that extra line on this part, which is missing here, and I actually went over the forearms. It's a pretty much close match straight away, but it's a little bit more kind of matted, a little bit more earthy colour on the official than it is with that paintwork. And then again on this side you can see it looks slightly washed out, but now we have that line up all the way through on there. And also I tried to sort of say that there's this little com piece at the top here. It's like a little bit of a raised part on the helmet, and yeah, just painting that little bit grey as well. So that's all we've done for the grey. The next up, I used a semi-gloss black here, but I would highly recommend maybe a flat black than this. This is all I had left when I was doing it, because silly me, I dropped all my black all over the desk the other day when I was doing a custom. So yeah, all you need to do on this part is that little kind of vent area at the back of the helmet, which I noticed you can't really see it. I don't know if it's actually there on the helmet itself. So I just added it in there, just up on the top, that little rectangle, and then we've added that black brow as well across the back. And that's all we used for that part. Next up, we did use yellow XF4. Good colour, as I said, it's kind of like an off yellow kind of colour, so you don't really need to mix it. And all you had to do on these parts down here is just add it onto these disc areas just on the side, either side there. So that was the little bit that's missing. So you don't paint it all grey, you just paint the very ends of it to get it there. And then I'll just bring in the my light a little bit more as well, so we get a bit more light at the forefront here. Next up, we use gunmetal. Again, a really fantastic colour here, X10. And we just used that on his aerials. So his original aerial was white, and now we painted it in the gunmetal, which matches the rest of his helmet up here. And then we painted that extra line in the centre as well, so it goes all the way through. And then on the little eyepiece on his helmet, we just painted the gunmetal. Next up, we used buff, a good colour as well, really nice earthy colour, and that's a pretty good sort of little one there. And now I've done it, it doesn't even look like I painted it, but you can see this one's got like a bit of a more shiny kind of grey to it, and then now this one is kind of just earthed it down a little bit on there. I did do it a very light colour. I did put a little bit of water into the paint as well, just to break it down. And then you can see this extra brow around. So this is normally like the buff colour on here, and it's not painted on the original one there. So yeah, all the way around that colour should go around that part. So it adds a lot more detail to the helmet, which is really good. So just move those out the way. Next up, we have used flat red and flat yellow. Again, a really fantastic colour. Tamira don't really do a matching colour for the 2012 orange, so I would highly recommend putting a little bit of red and then add yellow to it, and then just slowly mix it up. Don't rush it, just a dab and a little bit of a dab of this. Give it a good mix, and then test it with each other. And I've always done that since starting the channel, with even with my first 12th battalions of Waxer and Boyle way back when. So yeah, you know, it's quite a good little match. So on that orange parts we have used, it's just like this little tiny little line on the top of that little part there, and it's also underneath, if we can bring it in, just on the inside there, and then I said on the thermal detonator as well on the back, just there, just that tiny little detail added in, and done. To be honest, that's all you needed for that part. So again, don't mix a lot of that paint, just a slight, even if it's just like a little dish on the side, that's all you need, is a little dab. Next up, we had used flat flesh, which is XF15, a nice little colour. It is quite a good skin colour when you mix it with flat red as well, so you get like a pinky hue, but this time I made it a bit more pinky than as I have been doing before. Again, you know, I'm not a fantastic painter, I just try and do my best. So I added that kind of like scar on there. I was going to get a knife and kind of etch it in and make it kind of like he's actually got a thing, but it's kind of like more of a sort of a skin scar than it is sort of like really like cut into his head. So yeah, when you get him in the right positions, you can see the scar pops off. And I just copied a couple of pictures there on YouTube and Google, so kind of a mix of the official and the Clone Wars. So putting their helmets back on like so, and then the rest I used on that sponge, which is a XF flat white, and again I just dabbed around on certain areas and it just gives off a little bit of white speck, so it kind of looks like he's got a bit of paint chipping and stuff there on his orange parts and stuff. So yeah, looking pretty good, I must say so myself. And just adding these two next to each other, you can just see adding those extra details, especially in that helmet, it just brings in a lot more details, it just makes the figure pop a lot more official, a lot more weathered and stuff around on there. So weathering wise, I just kind of used like a flat black, and then I mixed it with water, and then dabbing that brush right down and just doing the strokes. Just make sure you don't have a lot of paint on that work, and then you can just brush it over the edges at a flat way with a flat brush as well. So this is, I think this is the brush I've used down here, and yeah, just edging it over on the edges just like this, just a little bit in certain angles and across, you know, especially up here on this sort of like torso area, you can see as it goes through. And then with a little bit of a thinner paintbrush, I get a little bit of black and we just make little lines, and then that coincides with all these other little parts that are added up here. So yeah, slightly weathered. I can't stand weathering over too much. I can't stand it where it's along every bit. It kind of looks like a cell shaded figure, and yeah, he's looking really cool, and I'm happy how he's turned out. So I hope you guys like the video as well, and you know, inspires you to get a bit of paintbrush onto these guys, because it can really make your figures pop, and it's really fun to do. The way I kind of look at my figures when they come in, I get excited when there's things missing. I feel like it's a bit like a Lego kit for adults, so I can go, oh, I can add that part on there and make him look brilliant and make him look my own. So I get excited when sometimes Hasbro do go a little bit lazy, even though it is very annoying when you're paying for these prices. So thank you again, Philip, for getting me the extra one here, and it's kind of sort of like, it just made me go, oh, do you know what I need to do? I really need to get in some more custom Codys. So this is the original Cody that we have here, and then I've got my phase 1 Cody, which I done a long time ago on here, and I think this guy drastically needs an update. So this is the orange, actually, I was telling you about, the red and the yellow, so you can get a quite good match on here. But this is guys on the very old body, these legs only can move out, they can't even move forward. I used to think these sort of phase 1 clone bodies were amazing. So I'm gonna try and update this guy. I was gonna use this Cody here and just give him a phase 1 helmet, but I know there's certain details, and I was just gonna add the extra white, the extra line there on his leg. But he does have a white abdomen and a white belt, and he doesn't have all these other sort of like gibberies over his suit. So my original one was I was actually going to grey this guy off and make him his custom from Bad Batch. So I may still do that, or I may make this guy that guy, because I have still got a Phase 2 clone. But then I was thinking, if I take off this helmet and then bring in my Phase 1 custom Captain Rex helmet, and then take off Bandy Legs over here, because he's not a great figure. Even if I repainted him into the grey and whatnot, he's still not a fantastic figure. He's just not very nice, especially those legs and stuff, which is a shame. I know it's a Black Series figure and I know it's like that, but you know, end of the day, I kind of like some decent stuff on the shelf. So it might need a little bit of play. You can see it needs a little bit of dribbling down and a bit of sanding, but do you know what? I think this may work, and this could be my new Phase 1 Commander Cody, and I'm super happy. And I'll probably make him I'll make him all clean to coincide with my Phase 1 Captain Rex as well, because I think these guys next to each other will look fantastic. So I think this will be my next custom, so stay tuned. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for making welcome. I am slightly back at a reasonable pace. I'm trying to get back into collecting. It's just so hard collecting with money and all that sort of stuff, so I'm not as a regular reviewer as I did. So I'm just going to pop on here now and again and show you what I've been doing and what I've been collecting. So thank you again. Don't forget you can subscribe, join the channel, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.